Ever get the feeling that native English speakers are kind of speaking in some secret code? Like you learn all the grammar, you know tons of words, but then bam, real conversations, they just throw you for a loop.
I hear ya.
So today we're going to do a deep dive into what makes understanding native English speakers so tricky. And to help us, we're using this YouTube video, Why You Can't Understand Native English Speakers, from this channel, English in Comfort.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, the hosts of that video, Emily and Liam, they do a pretty good job at breaking down the reasons behind this whole native speaker mystery, you know?
Definitely, yeah.
And it's not all about how fast they talk, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
video, it pointed out that native speakers, especially when they're just chatting casually, they tend to blend words together, drop sounds and stuff. Like, what do you do? And suddenly it becomes, what you doing?
Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting is it's not really about being lazy with the language or anything like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, these changes, they actually happen naturally over time, like frequently used phrases. They just sort of evolve for efficiency.
Huh. So it's not laziness, it's evolution.
You got it.
So I guess that means we shouldn't get too hung up on trying to understand every single word.
Right.
Focus more on getting the gist of the whole phrase.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like listening to music. You're not focusing on every single note, right?
Right.
You're grooving to the melody.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Another point they made, and I found this really interesting, was this whole difference between what they called classroom English versus real-world English. You know, we learn all these perfect sentences in textbooks,
Right.
but then you go out into the world and it's all slang, contractions, informal expressions.
Absolutely. And this difference, it ties into what linguists call register. It's basically how we adjust our speech for different social situations.
Ah, okay.
We don't talk to our boss the same way we talk to our friends, right?
Right, of course not.
Same idea applies to different levels of formality in any language, really.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember one of the examples from the video was comparing, please fill out this form, like in a formal setting,
Yeah.
to a casual, hey, fill this out real quick,
Right.
that you'd hear in everyday conversation.
Okay.
It really highlights how different those two registers can be.
It does. And being able to kind of switch between those registers
Yeah,
is a big part of, sounding natural and fitting in.
totally. So it seems like knowing the rules of English is just the first step,
Yeah.
but becoming really fluent, it comes from understanding how those rules get bent and changed in everyday speech.
Absolutely. And then on top of all that, there's another layer of complexity, accents.
Uh-oh.
The video, it pointed out how even within a single country, like the US or the UK, you have this huge variety of accents.
Oh, yeah,
And that can be really tough for non-native speakers.
for sure.
They gave the example of y'all in the southern US.
I love y'all. It's so
Yeah.
charming.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got the classic British cheers, which, let's be honest, can mean like a million different things.
No, absolutely.
So it's almost like having different dialects within the same language, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And the key to understanding different accents is really just exposure.
Okay, that makes sense.
The more you hear them through movies, TV, podcasts, the more your ear gets used to those variations.
I'm curious, for anyone listening, what accents do you guys find the most challenging? Or maybe even the most fascinating?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that even native speakers have accents.
Right, of course.
It just reflects where we come from,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
communities we're part of.
Exactly. Okay, speaking of things that make English tough,
Oh, here we go.
the video, it also went into this whole world of slang,
Ah, yes,
which can feel like a secret code for non-native speakers.
it can.
They mentioned phrases like, I can't even, that's lit, and she ghosted me.
Oh, yeah, those are classics.
I mean, those can be hard to decipher, even for someone like me.
And slang is especially tricky because it's always changing.
Ah, right.
It reflects cultural trends, social dynamics.
Yeah.
It's like this moving target.
So you're constantly playing catch up.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think what makes those examples we just talked about even harder is that they're based on metaphors that might not be obvious if you're not familiar with the culture.
You're absolutely right.
Like ghosted. It's a powerful image, sure,
Yeah,
but it takes some cultural understanding to get it.
it does. You're not just learning the words themselves.
Right.
You're learning the cultural context, the implied meanings behind them.
So we've got speed, we've got blended words, different registers, accents, and now slang, all making it seem like native English speakers are speaking in code.
It's a lot to juggle.
No wonder it feels overwhelming sometimes. But before you throw in the towel,
Don't give up.
the video, it also gave some really good advice on how to actually improve your understanding. And we're going to dive into those strategies in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned. So we spent some time talking about why it can be tough to understand native English speakers.
Yeah, lots of reasons, it seems.
But now let's switch gears a bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about what you can actually do to get better at understanding.
Yeah, because knowing the problem doesn't solve the problem, right?
Exactly. And Emily and Liam, they had some really good tips in their video.
Yeah, practical stuff.
Yeah, that I think are really helpful.
For sure.
Their big thing was immersion,
Immersion.
like really surrounding yourself with real-world English as much as you can,
Gotcha.
which means going beyond, textbooks and classrooms.
Okay.
It's just the stuff like watching TV shows, movies,
Yeah.
listening to podcasts, even just spending time on YouTube.
Right, like their channel.
Exactly, where you're hearing real people talk.
Makes sense.
The key is to just hear how native speakers actually use English, with all the little quirks and variations and everything.
For sure.
And don't be afraid to start with subtitles, by the way.
Oh, good point.
They can really help bridge the gap
Yeah.
between, written and spoken English.
Totally.
It's like you're training your ear
Yeah.
to pick up on all those little details.
Yeah.
The blending, the accents, the rhythm,
Oh,
all that.
Sure. For sure.
They also talked about this technique called shadowing.
Shadowing. Yeah.
Have you ever tried that?
I have, yeah.
You listen to a native speaker,
Right.
and then you try to repeat exactly what they're saying.
Mimic them.
Yeah, like you're their shadow,
Right.
copying their pronunciation, intonation, everything.
It's tough.
It's a workout for your mouth, isn't it?
It is.
But it makes you pay super close attention
Oh, yeah.
to how the sounds actually work.
For sure. For sure.
It helps you get that natural flow
Yeah.
instead of just thinking about each word separately.
Totally. Totally.
And speaking of learning phrases, another great tip from the video was to focus on phrasal verbs and slang.
Oh, right.
Those are like the building blocks
Yeah.
of casual conversation.
Right.
But they can be so tricky.
They really can.
Their suggestion was to keep a slang journal.
A slang journal, huh?
Whenever you come across a new phrase,
Yeah.
write it down.
Got it.
Look up what it means,
Okay.
and then try to use it yourself.
I like that.
It's like you're building your own personal slang dictionary.
You're in control.
Right. And as you add to it, you start to see patterns.
Right.
You get the logic behind these crazy expressions.
It becomes less of a mystery.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond just learning new words and phrases, they also emphasized active listening.
Active listening.
It's not enough to just hear the words,
Eh. Okay.
yet engage with them.
Actively.
Right. Ask yourself questions.
What kind of questions?
Like, what's the main point the speaker is trying to get across?
Okay.
What details are they using to support that point?
Makes sense.
How are they using their tone of voice, their body language, to add meaning?
Right. All those subtle cues.
Exactly.
Yeah, being an active listener, it really does help.
Oh, absolutely.
them.
And finally, they talked about actually getting out there and talking with native speakers.
The scary part.
Yeah, but so important.
For sure.
They acknowledged it can be tough if you don't live in an English-speaking country.
Yeah, of course.
But they encourage people to look for online communities,
Oh, right.
language exchange platforms, stuff like that.
The internet to the rescue again.
It's amazing what's out there.
It really is.
The key is finding a supportive environment
Yeah.
where you can practice without feeling self-conscious.
Safe space.
Exactly.
Because that fear of making mistakes.
It can really hold you back.
Oh, big time.
And they made a great point about that.
Oh, is that?
Making mistakes,
Yeah,
it's part of learning.
it is. Yeah.
You got to put yourself out there.
Totally.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Embrace the mess. I love that.
And they also talked about mindset.
Mindset.
It's okay to have an accent.
Right.
You don't have to sound exactly like a native speaker.
Yeah, be yourself.
Exactly. That's the beauty of
Like,
language.
for sure.
It lets us express our individuality.
I love that.
So don't get caught up in trying to sound like someone else.
Right. Just be you.
Embrace your unique voice
Yeah.
and enjoy the journey.
I'm all about that.
Remember, it's about progress,
Yeah.
not perfection.
Yes.
Celebrate the wins,
For sure.
learn from the stumbles,
Yeah.
and never lose that curiosity.
Love it.
Their video ended with this thought that I think is worth digging into a little deeper.
Okay, what was that?
They briefly mentioned this connection
Yeah.
between language and culture.
Right. It's not just about words.
I was hoping we could explore that a bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
Because learning a language, it's not just about mastering grammar and vocab.
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding the cultural context
Yeah.
that shapes the way people communicate.
It's like the bigger picture.
Exactly.
It's about understanding the values, the humor.
Yeah, the historical nuances.
Right, all those things that influence how people express themselves.
And that's where things get really interesting.
How so?
Because as you learn more about the culture behind the language,
Yeah,
all those weird phrases and expressions start to make more sense.
they click into place.
Right, like those slang words we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
That's lit.
right.
She ghosted me.
Yeah, they're weird.
They might sound strange at first,
Totally.
but once you get the cultural context,
The why.
yeah, it all starts to click.
It's like learning the inside jokes
Yeah.
of a new group of friends.
You're in on the secret now.
I love that.
And I think that's what makes language learning so rewarding.
Yeah.
It's not just about a new skill. It's
Right.
about expanding your world,
Yeah.
connecting with people on a deeper level.
It's like travel.
It is like travel, yeah,
You're seeing the world.
through a different lens.
Yeah.
And it changes your own perspective.
I love that.
It's like that quote, to have another language is to possess a second soul.
Oh, I like that.
It's not just about words.
Right.
It's about understanding a different way of thinking, of being.
Wow, that's deep.
It is.
So I guess what we're saying is as
Yeah.
you continue learning English.
Remember that it's so much more
Yeah.
than just grammar and vocab.
It's bigger than that.
It's about embracing that cultural richness
Totally.
and letting it enrich your own understanding of the world.
Beautiful.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll even find a new second soul along the way.
It's like, when you travel to a new country,
Yeah.
learning a new language, it's kind of like that.
I get what you mean.
Like you're exploring this whole new landscape,
Yeah.
not just memorizing a map.
Right. You got to get out there and experience it.
Exactly. And just like with travel, the real good stuff,
The heart of it.
it comes from experiencing the culture,
Immersing yourself.
not just reading about it in some guidebook.
Absolutely.
And the more you do that,
the more you immerse yourself.
the more those phrases,
yeah.
those expressions that seem so weird at first,
Right.
they start to make sense.
Like they finally click into place.
Yeah, exactly. Like, remember those slang words we talked about?
Mhm.
That's lit. She ghosted me.
Yeah.
They sound so bizarre when you first hear them,
They do.
but once you get the culture behind them,
The context.
yeah, it's like, okay, I get it now.
It's like learning the inside jokes of a new group of friends.
Totally. And that's what I think makes language learning so rewarding.
It's more than just, adding words to your vocabulary.
You see deeper than that.
It's about expanding your horizons.
Yeah.
Connecting with people in a whole new way.
And seeing the world through a different lens, right?
Absolutely. It enriches your whole perspective.
It's like that quote, to have another language is to possess a second soul.
I love that quote.
It's beautiful, right? It's not just about words.
It's about understanding a different way of being.
Wow.
So to wrap things up here,
Yeah.
as you continue on your English learning journey,
Remember that it's about so much more than just grammar and vocab,
it's about embracing the culture that comes with the language.
and letting it enrich your own understanding of the world.
And maybe, just maybe,
Yeah,
you'll discover a new second soul along the way.
I love that. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of native English speakers.
It's been a pleasure,
We hope you learned a thing or two.
and that you feel inspired to keep learning,
And exploring.
because every step you take, every new phrase you understand,
It brings you closer to fluency.
and to a deeper connection with the language.
And with the people who speak it.
Happy learning, everyone.
See ya.